Hello?
Hello?
Kim, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, I am connected, but I'm not seeing any video.
Click on, what do you mean?
I mean that I don't see, like, normally when I join, I can see my face. I'm only audio, not video.
Just click on start video down in the left corner.
Nope. I'd love to, but there is no start video in the left corner. I've got this little screen up that says recording.
Okay.
Then it says meeting topic. Then it says host. Then it's got the URL. Then it's got the participant. And I've got a join audio. I've got a share screen. And I've got invite others. Ah, now I'm seeing Chris Sorensen.
I don't even see you on here, but
Yeah, I'm not having the option for video and I don't know why. But I'm obviously connected somehow.
yeah. Um, Hang on a second. I need to probably unmute. Hang on. Let me.
Okay. And I think I'm coming up as Kelly because I'm on Kelly's computer.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I wonder which Kelly you are. Do you know if you're
I think
Kelly Lyon or Kelly?
I'm Kelly Lyon. That's what it said when.
Okay.
Okay.
I clicked on ask to
Yes,
start
that did it.
video.
Yep, that did it. All right, there we go. All right. So it looks like I'm going to have Kelly Lyon on my name, but that's not my name.
Let me see if I can change it.
Okay.
Do you see that it's changed,
Yep,
Linda?
it is. Yep, it is. It's changed. All right, so now I'm just going to wait until you give me turn it over to me, and then I'll just go ahead and start. So,
Are other
looks like
people hearing Linda? Nod your head. Okay, just making sure.
yay, okay.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jetta.
Good morning.
How is everybody?
Oh, good morning, Barbara. I'm fine.
Good.
You talk once in a while to make sure people can hear you.
Okay.
And then it can give you the rights if you look to see.
She's still admitting people in?
I know, but did she give you the rights to share?
Oh, I don't know if she did. Let me
Remember
see.
how
Yes, I'm just looking to see.
Just try a share screen and then get out of it to make sure she gave you the rights.
It doesn't look like she did actually. Oh, maybe she did.
Okay, let's see. Share screen.
It would either say that it would pop up your pictures, or it would have said, you don't have rights.
Yeah, it popped up my picture, so
Okay,
I'm good.
I gave you the right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, you did. All right. Hello, everybody. Everybody can hear me? Okay. We're just waiting for everybody to get connected on. Somebody has a very beautiful cabinet with some very beautiful figures in it. Oh, it's you. Well, for those of you who have joined us already, good morning. Looks like we still have a whole lot of people left to join this meeting.
Good morning.
Good. Good to see you, Chris.
Oh, you too. I hope everyone's doing
I hope
well.
everybody's being
Me
safe.
too. I saw someone's dog. Oh, it was Christy. Had her dog in with her. That was cute.
When I do this from home, my dog will jump on my lap and
Oh, that's
I
fun.
wish my dog could come to work with me.
I love seeing everyone's faces. I'm just gonna scroll through. Fun. I think I need to adjust my thing.
Linda, this is Haley. Can you see my camera? Because I can't see it on my screen. I just see my name.
I don't see you, Haley. I just see an H. That must represent you.
Okay. Well, I'm here. I can see
You
everyone
can
else.
see me though, right?
Yeah.
If you do the video part, the icon will bring your picture up, I think. If she needs help.
Haley, do you have a video camera on your computer?
Yeah, it's been
Like-
working all this time. I'm just messing with it right now to get it to turn back on. I'm not sure why it's off.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Ah, okay. Hi, Haley. Hi, Kenya.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
You could tell I was a server in a restaurant because I talked to Cheryl right when she was putting a mouthful of food in.
Of course.
Daphne. We got about a third of the people that should be here.
Hello?
Hello. Hey, Allison.
Hi. I haven't done my iPad with Zoom before,
It
so,
looks like you're doing it just fine because I can see you. And
okay.
you know, it's getting close to 8:30 and we're going to give it maybe like 5 more minutes just to make sure everybody that needs to log in can log in, and then we'll get started. I will be right back.
Hey, Susan, is everybody on? It's Lori. It's Lori.
What's
Where's
that?
everybody? Aren't we having a meeting or have I pushed the wrong button?
We are having a
Where-
meeting. I don't know if everybody's on, but they should be.
Can you hear me, Susan?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can you hear me,
Hi.
Lori?
I can hear you. Where's everybody?
Everybody's
I'm
here?
on my phone.
Go to the bottom and start your video.
Hi, Linda. This is Patrice. I got a link. Am I supposed to be here?
Yep, you are. You are in the right place at the right time. Good job, Patrice.
Awesome. Yay.
Linda, if you want to
Everybody's
let everyone
Hi, Patrice. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Hi, Martha. How are you?
Good. Who was fixing their hair there? I was smiling.
That was Lori.
Oh, Laura.
Hi, how are you, Martha?
Good to see you. Hi, Milvia.
Hi, Hilda.
Same lipstick, different lipstick?
different lipstick.
Okay. Hi,
Hi,
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
I'm ready. I got my socks on. Yeah, ready.
I'm just going to give it another step. See if anybody else is joining us, and then we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can get you guys back to work and start in your days.
Right. Okay. There we go. A little bit of light.
Okay, I'm going to say it feels like nobody's joined us for the last few minutes, and so we're going to go ahead and start. Yes. Yes, thank you. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to put your mute buttons on, okay? Anybody who joins the meeting after we've started will just join us as we are in progress. This is really interesting for me this morning to do this presentation to you all this way, and I love technology and that we have this available to us. So it's good to see all of you here this morning for this meeting. What we're going to talk about today is harassment in the workplace. And what I want to start with, and I'm going to say right up front, please be forgiving for me for the technology I'm going to use today, and hopefully it will work for me just fine. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to start out with showing you all a video that was put out by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. And it has a lot of really good information that I want you to pay attention to. It's about 10 minutes, and when it's done, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit further about this topic. So I am going to go ahead, keep your fingers crossed technology works, and I'm going to start this video for you.
Hey, Linda.
Yes.
Real quick, so people are trying to get on, but it's reached capacity, so it won't allow them to come on.
Oh, really? We have a capacity?
It says 100% participants.
Oh, I'm not sure that we were aware of that. I think that's a glitch that we didn't anticipate.
We are going to, this is being recorded. We're going to put it out on the Slack page right now, letting people know that's the problem, and they'll just watch.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Kim, you'll do that. You'll put out the notice on Slack, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start our video. Let me see. Let's go.
To work in an environment of harassment. However, the significant number of complaints of harassment filed every year proves this is still a problem. In this short presentation is unlawful workplace harassment and what you, an employee, should do if you are a victim of harassment. Before I go further, let me clarify something. I will explain protections under the federal EEO laws enforced by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. These laws apply to all employers with 15 or more employees and all federal employees. However, your state may have anti-discrimination employment laws that include additional protections that also apply to you and others in your state. Let's show you a real-life scenario of harassment in the workplace. And like all the examples you'll see today, it's drawn from actual cases.
Hey, man, check it out. Oh, man, look at her. Right. You know how to do that. I'm going to take a picture for later. Yeah, do that.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
I already took two. Come on, man.
So let's start with the definition. Unlawful workplace harassment is unwelcome verbal or physical conduct that is based on one of the protected EEO bases that it alters the conditions of the victim's employment. This unwelcome harassment can change the conditions of employment in two ways. Number one, by being so objectively offensive, intimidating, hostile, or abusive that it effectively changes the terms and conditions of the workplace. Or, number two, by culminating in an employment action such as termination or demotion. Here are examples that could be part of workplace harassment. A man touching a woman inappropriately.
What do you think you're doing?
Relax, just one little piece.
Disgusting.
Come on, sweetheart, I'm just kidding.
Anti-Islamic cartoons sent to coworkers by email. Racial slurs painted on a wall or victim's car. And derogatory comments made about an employee's physical disability.
Please don't call me names. It's demeaning.
To help you understand the definition, let's discuss the phrases unwelcome conduct, protected EEO bases, and alter the conditions of the victim's employment. Unwelcome conduct is conduct that you did not initiate and you find undesirable or offensive. For example, the reactions of the woman in the break room vignette showed that she was offended by the behavior of the men. Unwelcomeness depends on how it is received. Some employees, however, enjoy engaging in harmless sexual banter, dating, or even exchanging sexual jokes at work. This conduct may not be unwelcome if it is okay with everyone involved. Another example might be two coworkers who like to debate religion while on their breaks. Again, this may not be unwelcome if it's okay with both employees. Nonetheless, your employer is responsible for everyone's work environment. So, even if the two coworkers are having a private conversation and both are fine with the topic, that doesn't mean everyone else is okay with it. If you are offended by the sexual banter or religious discussions you overhear from your coworkers, their actions could be creating a hostile work environment for you. However, if you decide to join in, you can't later complain about being harassed because your actions indicated that you did not find your coworkers' conduct unwelcome. I also want to discuss how to communicate unwelcomeness. Merely saying something like, "I don't like that joke," may be enough. You can also communicate unwelcomeness by letting your supervisor know or by going to the person identified in your employer's anti-harassment policy. When most people hear the word harassment, they think of sexual harassment. The men's behavior in the break room vignette might be the beginning of sexual harassment that eventually creates a hostile work environment. Sex is one of the protected EEO bases. So for now, let's just focus on sex harassment. Conduct does not have to be sexual to be based on sex. Sometimes it's about gender. For example, a woman who refers to all of her male employees as cavemen, or repeatedly tells them how men are inferior to women, may be harassing them, but not in a sexual way. Jokes emailed around the office about women being unable to read a map or unable to properly park cars would be based on gender, but are not sexual in nature. Or when employees bully a coworker and call her names because she is transgender. This may be harassment based on gender, even though it is not sexual. So harassment based on sex includes both harassment that is sexual and harassment that is non-sexual and based on gender. Did you also know that both the victim and the harasser can be either a woman or a man? And the victim and harasser can be the same sex? Yes, men can harass women or men, and women can harass men or women. This goes for both sexual and gender-based harassment. But remember, harassment can be the protected bases. You should not ridicule, irritate, or mistreat another person because of his or her sex or gender, race, color, religion, national origin, age, 40 or older, genetic information, or disability. So what is considered the workplace? The workplace is essentially wherever you are working, not just the physical space where you work. For example, while on a business trip, a company's attorney makes sexual innuendos about her male assistant, quote, taking care of her needs, and refers to him as her boy toy. He is embarrassed and offended by these comments and references. So this could be workplace harassment, even though this is happening outside of their actual work site. Your workplace can extend to anywhere you might travel for work, for a conference or trade fair, or even at a local restaurant where an employee's retirement celebration is held. And absolutely anyone who has access to your workplace can be considered a harasser. This means your supervisor, a supervisor from another area, a coworker, or even non-employees like the guy who repairs the copier, the woman who delivers the mail, or one of the folks who clean your office windows could be a harasser. We've covered the first part of our definition. What is unwelcome conduct? And we've talked about the protected EEO bases. Now let's talk about the third phase in our definition, alter the conditions of the victim's employment. A hostile work environment is created if there are comments or conduct that is unwelcome and so severe or pervasive that it creates an intimidating or abusive environment for you or others. So what is meant by severe or pervasive? First, let's look at conduct that is severe. Conduct that is severe is so serious or harmful that it may only need to happen once to create a hostile work environment. Physical touching escalates the severity of any given situation. Other examples of severe conduct include highly charged words and symbols in the workplace, like a hangman's noose or swastika painted on the wall, or use of the N-word. In general, the more severe the conduct, the less pervasive it needs to be to create a hostile work environment. So what do we mean by conduct that is pervasive? Pervasive means the conduct occurs on a regular basis. That's why some harassment, such as jokes, may not be initially considered severe, but when it occurs over and over again, it can become more than just inappropriate. It can be considered pervasive. The conduct by the men in the break room vignette occurred once. However, if the men in the opening vignette often made sexually suggestive gestures towards their coworker when they saw her or passed her in the hallway, then the frequency of their conduct could create a hostile work environment for her. Occasional teasing, offhand comments, or isolated incidents that are not serious may not be considered unlawful harassment, but the more often this type of behavior occurs, the less severe it needs to be to create a hostile work environment. Harassment can come in different forms. You've probably heard of the term hostile work environment. But have you heard of the term tangible employment action? Anyone with access to your workplace can create a hostile work environment. A supervisor, a coworker, or a non-employee. But only a supervisor or someone with supervisory authority can make significant changes in the conditions of your employment. In other words, when unwelcome conduct results in a tangible employment action, such as denial of overtime, discipline, promotion, or termination, the harasser can only be someone with this kind of authority. For example, if your supervisor is pressuring you for dates or for sex and you keep saying no, he may be creating a hostile work environment for you. If your supervisor then punishes you for saying no by taking away your office space or denying you training, then he has taken a tangible employment action against you. And remember, it doesn't matter whether your supervisor is a man or a woman. Either way, no employee should have to put up with harassment or be punished for speaking up about it. So what are your responsibilities as an employee when it comes to unlawful workplace harassment? First, do you know if your employer has an anti-harassment policy? Most employers do. Find yours and read it. Secondly, you should avoid engaging in inappropriate behavior. What is inappropriate behavior? To start with, offensive conduct that is based on race, sex, color, religion, national origin, age, or disability is inappropriate. So, for example, when you start to make a joke about someone's age or forward one of those emails that talks about a woman in a derogatory manner, stop yourself. Next, if you believe you are a victim of harassment or witness harassment and have supervisory responsibility, take a look at your employer's policy and follow it. Typically, your first step to getting help is to alert an appropriate official. If you don't have any idea where to start, or you're just not sure or have questions, talk to someone in your HR or EEO office. Once alerted, it is then your employer's responsibility to take steps to investigate and stop harassment. Finally, commit to attending and participating in all training sessions provided by your employer regarding workplace harassment. It is your responsibility to stay informed. In this presentation, we've covered a massive amount of information in a short time. We defined unlawful employment harassment, talked about the basis covered by the EEO laws and how the workplace extends to wherever you are working, and discussed how affect the work environment or affect the conditions of employment for its victims. If you still have questions, we have lots of information about harassment on our website at www.eeoc.gov. That's eeoc.gov. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about workplace harassment, as working in an environment free of harassment is the right of every employee.
Okay. Right. So I thought that was a very, can you all hear me? I just want to make sure. Everybody's still good. I thought that was a very informative video to let us know exactly what
Understanding sexual harassment.
Whoops, hold on.
By the end of this video, you're going to have a complete understanding of sexual harassment. We're going to
need
examine the
to
types of sexual harassment that can occur in your workplace. Then we'll share some proven tips for identifying and preventing incidents of sexual harassment. But first, some info about iSight. iSight is a leading provider of investigative case management software. iSight software helps companies investigate and prevent harassment in the workplace.
All right, I'm
Sexual
really
harassment
trying to turn
lawsuits
this
can reach
off,
the
but
$100 million
everybody be patient
not
with me.
including the
I don't know
cost
where
of
it is.
absences, turnover, and low productivity.
No.
This is why some of the most successful companies in the world use iSight software to save money
Everybody,
and
please be
protect their
patient, and
employees
thank
by
you.
effectively investigating and preventing harassment. Today, you're going to learn the 6 warning signs of.
I just want to get out of this. Okay, so close. Which one? This one right here? The one that's right there. Okay, there you go. All right, and come back over here. Come back there. Okay. All right, I think we got it. I think we worked it out. Okay. So, thank you, Kelly. Okay, so everybody can still hear me? All right. So when we were watching the video, there were a couple of things that I want to add on to that. If you were paying attention, you noticed that they were talking about how you have these federal laws that protect you as an employee, but they talked about states having additional laws. And so what I wanted to do is I'm going to go over some of the additional laws and rules that the state of Utah has regarding harassment in the workplace. And then we're going to go over some other information. So I'm going to put up a PowerPoint right now. Hope this works. Hold on. Okay, everybody can see this PowerPoint? Okay, all right, so what we're gonna do is, first of all, we're gonna talk about Utah state laws. All right, you've got the Utah Anti-Discrimination Act, and this is a law that was passed a few years ago. Utah actually adds further protections above and beyond what the federal government has for protections. So, including the race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, and disability, Utah also protects people in the category of sexual orientation, gender identity, pregnancy, childbirth, or pregnancy-related conditions. And on top of that, Utah also provides additional protections which provide that employees may express religious or moral beliefs in the workplace in a reasonable manner on equal terms with similar expressions allowed by the employer, and that employers may not discharge, demote, refuse to hire, retaliate, or discriminate against an individual based on expressions of religious, political, or personal belief outside of the workplace. So you can see that the state of Utah does expand those workplace rights even further than the federal government. And so when we're talking about what the federal government requires and we're looking at what the state requires, then we at DDI Vantage do have a harassment policy. So we're going to go over that right now. So we've got our policy, which is policy 309, and it states, DDI Vantage is committed to providing a work environment that is free from discrimination and harassment. Actions, words, jokes, and comments based on gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, race, ethnicity, disability, age, religion, or any other protected characteristic will not be tolerated, whether spoken or transmitted electronically. So we make it very, very clear in our harassment policy. But when we're talking about transmitted electronically, we also have our electronic communications and media systems policy, and it says prohibited are the following: electronic mail communications and access to internet sites that are or might be perceived as sexually explicit, harassing, derogatory, disruptive, or offensive on the basis of race, color, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, disability, or any other protected characteristics. So we're saying you need to not harass in the workplace or through your electronic communications. And we even have one more policy that is our social media policy. So in this policy, DDI Vantage realizes that employees may utilize social media to share life experiences and thoughts with family, friends, and colleagues. And in fact, I would suspect that most of you do. However, the use of social media may involve certain risks that require employees to recognize and accept personal responsibility in such use. Employees must be aware that any social media activity that adversely affects their job performance, the performance of colleagues, or the performance of others who work on behalf of or for DDI Vantage, including suppliers, contractors, vendors, other such entities, may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Inappropriate conduct includes, for example, social media posts that could be viewed as malicious, obscene, threatening, or intimidating, such as offensive posts meant to intentionally harm someone's reputation, or posts that could contribute to a hostile work environment on the basis of a protected status. So we are also saying that we are requiring that outside of the workplace, through the social media, that you are also not harassing your coworkers And then finally, on the day that everybody started employment with us, you were all required to sign a code of conduct. And this code of conduct had a list of all of the ways that we expect you to behave on the job, the appropriate way to behave. Employees, consultants, and volunteers of DDI Vantage are expected to conduct themselves in a professional and ethical manner and refrain from any behavior that might be harmful to themselves, their coworkers, their recipients, or DDI Vantage, or that might be viewed unfavorably by current or potential clients or the general public. In addition to this code of conduct, employees may be responsible to agree to an additional code of conduct for the specific program for which they work. And in that list where it says inappropriate conduct includes but is not limited to the following, it specifically says engaging in illegal discrimination of any type and engaging in sexual harassment. So you've got federal laws, you've got state laws, and you've got policies and a code of conduct that we have in order to ensure that you have an environment that is safe and harassment free. What I want to do now is we're going to go through some scenarios and we're going to talk about whether this is harassment or not so that we can really get a good understanding of what is and isn't. So my first scenario is this. If my intentions were good, for example, I meant to compliment someone on how great they looked, there is no way my conduct could violate the sexual harassment policy. And of course, that is false. Harassment depends on how the conduct was received, not the intent. And you're going to hear this a lot this morning, how it was received, not the intent. When you are accused, I don't want to say accused, if somebody comes to you and says you did something that I find offensive, and you as a person absolutely didn't mean to offend them, the response shouldn't be, well, I didn't mean to offend you, so you just need to get over it. I think the response should be, I am sorry. You can say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, but I'm aware now that that does, and I won't do it anymore. Because again, I'm going to harp on this. Harassment depends on how it was received, not the intent. So people who are harassed usually do something to invite it. And this is a mentality that I would just like to eliminate from our culture and from our society altogether, because of course the answer to that is false. Conduct that is unwelcome is not invited. I'm going to give you an example of somebody that who had made a comment. I was doing harassment training for a company prior to the one I worked for before I started working here. And as I was doing the training and we were talking about this, one of the men in the room raised his hand and said, you know what? He says, when women wear sweaters, they're just inviting men to look at their chest. And then he said, my opinion is that a woman would not wear a sweater unless she wants a man to look at her chest. And I go back to this thing where it says, conduct that is unwelcome is not invited. If I don't want you looking at my chest, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing. You're not invited to look. This is what we call victim blaming. And victim blaming is a devaluing act where the victim of a crime, an accident, or any type of abusive maltreatment is held wholly or partially responsible for the wrongful conduct committed against them. When a person has somebody do something harmful to them, your response should never be, what were you wearing? Or what did you say? Or how were you acting? Again, conduct that is unwelcome is not invited. If most people find a comment amusing and inoffensive, then the one person who is offended does not have a right to complain about harassment. I mean, nobody in the office thinks it's offensive, so that one person is going to just ruin everybody's fun? Nope, false. If an employee finds conduct to be offensive, he or she should report the conduct before it becomes severe or pervasive. When conduct happens over and over again, that becomes pervasive. If you go back to the video, you remember saying a few jokes that may be off color might not be considered harassment, but if you do it month after month after month, then it can become severe and pervasive. So it doesn't matter that it doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, you need to make sure that you don't put up with that. Using slang nicknames that denote a coworker's race, ethnicity, cultural heritage, religion, sex, or age is okay as long as it's done in a joking manner. And this one can be a little tough to think about because we sometimes have relationships with our coworkers that can be in that vein where we're just talking in a joking way. Here it is. Harassment depends on how the conduct is received, not the intent. So if you're joking with somebody and they're receiving it as a joke and they're not getting any, they're not being offended by it, then it's not harassment. But I would say it's definitely not okay to do this in the workplace. Maybe good friends joking back and forth in a non-workplace setting is okay, but not in the workplace. And I'm going to give you an example of what this might look like, because sometimes we don't think about these things, but we are going to talk about this, people who are old, like me. The kind of words that we use to describe people who are old. You're a baby boomer, a senior citizen, you're aged, you're a teenager, you're older, a mature adult, and then you've got this word boomer in there. And this is a new word that has come about in the last few years. And people will say boomer when they're talking about people who are older and maybe a little bit stubborn in their beliefs, but the actual definition of the word is it's a retort for perceived resistance to technological change, climate change denial, marginalization of members of minority groups, or opposition to younger generations' ideals. And if you call me a boomer and that's what the word means, I'm going to be offended by that. But if I have a great relationship with one of my coworkers, they could certainly say that and it wouldn't offend me. But I'm still going to say not in the workplace. Not in the workplace. Somebody around you might hear it, somebody else might be offended by that, or even the person you're saying it to might say, wow, I have a great relationship with you, but not to the point where you can call me that. So you really need to watch those things about nicknames and terms when you have those really good relationships with coworkers. You still want to keep that kind of thing out of the workplace. Okay, asking a coworker for a date is not sexual harassment. That is true. A request for a date does not rise to the level of harassment. Coworkers date all the time. If the requests continue or is pressuring another person for a date, that could turn into harassment, but just asking your coworker out is not harassing behavior. Both men and women can be harassed. Of course, in the video we just watched, they said men and women can be victims of harassment. They can also both be harassers. An employer is not responsible if a person who provides a service harasses its employees because the provider of services is not employed by the company. And again, we go back to the video, that's absolutely false. Employers are responsible for ensuring that they provide a work environment free from harassment. If you've got a vendor coming to your office and that person is making you uncomfortable and harassing you, if you report it to your supervisor or me, I'm not going to say, well, he's not my employee, so there's nothing I can do about it. Well, what I'm going to do is call that person's company and say, you got a problem with your employee, and please don't send that employee out to our office anymore. It is up to us to make sure that no matter who it is, that you have a harassment-free environment to work in. Hey, if no one complains about your behavior, that means you're not offending anyone. Of course, that's false, because employers may indicate offense by remaining silent. Sometimes when an insensitive joke is told, that's the person who just doesn't laugh. And in other instances, employees may fail to complain because the harasser is a high-ranking official and they're very intimidated by that person and feel like if they complain, they might get in trouble. But you don't have to complain to get redress. And I'm going to tell you, in these kinds of situations, it almost always ends up in a courtroom. If a harassment victim makes a complaint that he or she has been harassed, but asks the supervisor not to report the harassment, the supervisor should respect the wishes of the victim. And this is always a hard one because I know people want to come sometimes and say, I just want to tell you this in confidence. But here is the reality. Managers, supervisors, HR, we're all obligated to report and address violations of workplace harassment policies. And if you're coming to your supervisor, I want you to think of it like this. If you went to the police and said, I saw somebody who broke into a car and stole it, but I don't want to tell you who it is and I don't want you to do anything about it, I don't think the police could. I think if you've reported a crime, they're going to act on it. And I think when you do that with your managers, supervisors, or HR, that we are talking about a violation of workplace policies. And we have policies in place for a reason. And if somebody violates those policies, I literally can't sit here and just watch that person continue to violate our policies because you asked me not to say anything. So what I would say instead is that you trust your supervisor or the person that you're reporting to, that they will handle this appropriately, and that you can, because know that if you report something that is a violation, we are going to address it. If an employee complains about workplace harassment and an investigation does not prove the allegations to be true, an accused supervisor or manager may discipline the employee for filing the complaint. And I want to say that sometimes a complaint is made, and after an investigation is done and looking at all of the different things, you might find out that there really wasn't as much validity to the complaint. And maybe there is nothing that you're acting on. But the answer to this is false. Employees who complain about workplace harassment are protected against retaliation. And just so that you know how serious we take it, we have a policy at DDI Vantage that says that. It says DDI Vantage prohibits any form of retaliation against employees for making a bona fide complaint under this policy or for assisting in the investigation of a complaint. So you are not going to be retaliated against because you made a complaint. So what, okay, I think I'm missing a slide here, but I wanted to talk to you about something before this slide. So, yeah, let me just make sure. Okay, so what I'm just going to tell you here is this. When you're experiencing like something that happens in the workplace that makes you feel offended, the very first step you should take is to go to that person that's offending you and ask them to please stop the behavior. If you talk to somebody about this, the most likely response you're going to get 9 times out of 10 is this. And you think about your coworkers and you think about how nice these people are. If you go to somebody and you say, look, what you're doing offends me, you're probably going to get a, oh my gosh, I had no idea you found that offensive. I will stop doing it right now. And that will take care of the problem, and then you can move forward. But when harassment doesn't stop, or when it becomes into that severe or pervasive mode, when it gets to that level, then we have a policy. And our policy says employees who witness or experience harassment must promptly report the matter to the appropriate supervisor, human resources, or the executive director. So we are saying that we're requiring you, if you're experiencing this or seeing it and it has reached that level of true harassment, that you need to report it. So now we're going to go into the reporting procedure and how that looks. This process, this is how you can get your issues, your conflicts or your complaints resolved. This is what we ask you to do. If you are having an issue with a coworker that you feel is harassing, you would need to go to your supervisor and tell them what's going on. That is always your first step. And I'm going to say this is, if you've already addressed it with the person or you feel like you can't, then you need to go to your supervisor, and your supervisor is going to look at all of the information and they're going to make a decision regarding that complaint. It may result in a verbal warning. It may result in a performance improvement plan or a corrective action, or maybe after looking at everything, it may result in just, well, we're just going to watch this situation. But your supervisor is going to have some sort of conclusion they will come up to. And if you as an employee don't like that, or you feel like that is not resolving the issue for you, then you can go to the next step and you can take that to the coordinator. Go to the coordinator and you can explain to your coordinator what is going on, why you are not happy with this solution. And then the coordinator will look at the supervisor, talk to that person, talk to the employee, get all the information. They will come to a conclusion about what is the appropriate steps to take place. And then they will let you and they will let the supervisor know in a reasonable amount of time. Now, if you're not happy with that decision, you can then take it up to the executive director, which is Jen, and you can appeal to her. She will collect information as well. She'll look at all the facts and she will render a judgment. And at this point, the judgment of the executive director is final. Everybody needs to know that human resources can serve as a resource at any time during this process. And if you feel like you are struggling with how to approach your supervisor, or you're struggling with how you can address this issue, I am happy to talk to any employees and help them maneuver through our process so that they feel more comfortable doing it. And under ordinary circumstances, employees are expected to follow this sequence to report and resolve conflicts and complaints. However, they are not restricted to reporting only to the immediate supervisor. If unusual circumstance warrants, employees may report conflicts and complaints directly to the coordinator or to human resources. So know that you always have an avenue of where you can go and complain if you're in an environment that you feel like is truly harassing. What I want to tell you all as we wrap this up is to say that really, if you treat each other with respect in the workplace, if you just treat people the way you want to be treated, then we can truly have a harassment-free workplace. Thank you all for joining me this morning. I am done with my presentation. And I just want to thank you all for joining me. I'm hoping that you will take something out of this. Today, you will go back to your workplace and you will think about your behavior in the workplace and treat your employees with the respect and the kindness that you would expect for yourself. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, Martha.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
See you guys. Thanks.
Linda. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks, Barbara. See ya.
Thanks, Linda. It was